Yes, so my name is Melinda Elmborg. I am the founder of Action Metrics. I also call myself a metrics coach. I'm starting to experiment with the branding and maybe call myself a mother of metrics or something funny like that. I am Swedish, but I live in Paris. I started my career at H&M, you know, the retail brand. And where I was working with the analytics, and I realized how amazing it is to be a data-driven company and that you're making a lot of good decisions, and it's a very well-functioning organization thanks to the data. After finishing my master, I kind of switched career and went into venture capital, where I was at a French VC fund, investing in seed and Series A and mostly B2C companies and digital stuff. In parallel to that, I wrote my master thesis that was on the subject of KPIs and startups. And we asked startups, like, how many KPIs do you know? And which KPIs do you use regularly? And then we compared that to their revenue growth data, and we found an 80% correlation between knowing and using KPIs to growing your company, basically. So that was kind of the seed to Action Metrics. Now since April, I'm doing this full time, meeting startups and coaching startups and getting you all better at working with data to become more successful companies, basically. I thought we could, because I read briefly about you. I got some info from Angel Challenge, but it would be great to connect like companies and names to faces. So could we just do like one quick round where you tell me your name, the name of your company, the startup, just quickly, what is your business model? Like, is it a subscription business, or is it one-time sales, or is it an app, or what is it? And also the industry, and if you've launched or not. That would be great to know, to get an idea of where I should like talk more and where I should talk less. So you want to start here?
Yeah, sure. My name is Vetle. I work in a startup called Costtail.
Yeah.
We create electric tails for cosplayers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we're gonna sell it through an e-commerce, sell it online.
Yeah.
It's an e-commerce startup. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's the basics.
Yeah. Great. We're gonna continue with the same.
My name is Alexander.
Yeah.
I work in Pineleaf. We develop a strategy video game.
Mm-hmm.
Our business model is one-time sale through Steam and through online platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And the industry, the gaming industry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Christian. I work in the startup Tiltspot.
Yeah.
.tv. Our business model is sale to our own platform of third-party games.
Okay.
And we're in the gaming industry.
Yeah. So we have the gaming corner here. What do we have over here?
My name is Øyvind. Me and Petter and Aret, we work in a startup called Skillsets.
Yeah. Okay.
We deliver, or we plan to deliver, trust as a service, data security. Business model is yet to be properly figured out of.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
And we're in the business of, or in the industry we're in is IT.
Yeah. Okay.
Security.
Wait, you didn't tell me if you had launched or not. Here on this table.
We're launching in next May.
May. Okay.
Demo and prototype is out.
Yeah. Okay. And
we're live with a soft launch.
Yeah. Cool. And you're launching soon?
We have
Or
launched
an MVP?
Like a subset of the things we plan to launch.
Okay. Cool. And then we had the names there, and you're all the same company, or no?
I'm alone.
You're alone. Okay. Please tell us who you are.
My name is Robert. My company is called CGen.
Yeah.
Business model is reinvent wave power and come up with a feasible model of producing electricity out of waves.
Yeah. Okay.
And the industry is power. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you launched? Have you started selling or not?
Final stages of prototyping.
Okay, cool. Yeah. If we move on here.
Me?
Yes, you.
My name is Taye. Together with Jonas,
Okay.
we are developing smart waste compactors for
Mhm.
paper towels.
Yeah.
Our business model is both one-time sales, but also a subscription model for software solution and plastic bags.
Okay.
And no, we haven't launched yet. We have a prototype.
Okay.
My
Hi.
name is Lucas. I'm working for Enry. We try to motivate people to trade more regularly.
Mhm.
We are focusing on a business model that is transaction based.
Yeah.
And the industry is sports tech.
Okay. And have you launched?
No, we're prototype phase.
Okay.
My name is Jawar. I work together with Örjan in Hark Technologies, and we're creating value out of the data from smart meters.
Okay.
So our business model is not set quite, but it will be something like a software as a service. Or,
Yeah.
And the industry is for like electricity. Everyone that buys electricity, so they will get cheaper electricity.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. And have you launched?
No, we had our first sale, but we're not launched the actual platform.
Okay. I see. Okay. Hi.
You look at me?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I'm Jonas and I'm working.
Oh yeah, we are together.
Yeah.
And then you're two together.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Front table.
Yeah, then it's probably us. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Karstein with Elmborg from
Hi.
Recruit. So basically we're trying to make like a machine learning driven platform or marketplace
Yeah.
for helping employers find better hires and
Okay.
candidates find better opportunities. The business model isn't set in stone. We're
Mm.
thinking like freemium subscription or success fee
Mhm.
towards employers.
Mm.
So it's HR tech.
Mm.
And we're currently like in a beta MVP-ish
Mm.
here at Continue.
Okay. Cool. Hi.
Yes, Jan, pick your day. The business model is to collect private people to provide activities.
Mhm.
And now more or less also going to be sale and collector for Booking.com. We're going to do the most sale, I think, in the future.
Okay.
The collector for them. So it's obviously the tourism industry.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
pick your day, I've been in the market for 1.5 years.
Okay. Cool. Nice.
My name is Katinka and I'm with the Pick Your Day.
Okay. Great. Nice. It's a bit different. Like some have been around for 1.5 years. Some is like prototyping. But I guess there will be at least one slide that is relevant for all of you. And otherwise, it's really good to know these things from early on, and then you understand like the mechanics of a company and just data-driven entrepreneurship in general. So data-driven entrepreneurship is a way of thinking and a way of building a company, and that you're looking for proof in your decisions. And it's not about guessing. It's not about like, I think my users, they like this. It's that you want to prove that what you're doing is right, and that people like what you're doing. It's about like really good decision making, because you can't, especially as a startup, you can't afford making bad decisions, because then you might die. And it's the hard truth, you know. And I was planning on speaking for like half an hour, 40 minutes or so, and then we're going to do a little exercise. And then after that, I'll talk for another 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll talk about the homework. Cool. And yes, we'll start with before you launch. No, sorry. We'll start with why do you measure KPIs? So, do you have any ideas, or like what have you thought of this before, and like what is the reason behind measuring KPIs? Yeah?
If you don't, you just rely on guesswork.
Yeah?
Making decisions.
Yeah? True? Did you have something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way to know how your business is doing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
True. I put it like this. Have you ever done a management course? I know you're a lot from engineering school here, but I guess you do some management courses as well, or? Because then you might recognize this thing. I call it the management loop, but it's usually what you see in all these management courses, either if it's like logistics or whatever. It's usually that you need to, basically project work, that you need to plan some work and then you need to take action and do it, and then you need to evaluate and measure the outcome, and then it's supposed to be a loop, so you're supposed to restart this, and that is basically the theory behind it, because if you're just going in between here you're lacking a big part of this loop of what you need to learn and know to make the next loop more successful. And as you're building a startup, you're running through these loops, basically. That's the idea. And if you have any questions, just stop me, and if it's too easy or not clear or whatever, just ask. We're not a super big group, so it's good to have some discussion. Cool. Okay, so before you launch, what can you do? Have you heard of MVP? Good. So it means a minimum viable product, and it means that you build some kind of product or present your service in some way, and you get proof or confirmation that what you're doing is right and what you're doing is good. So it's a bit of like user interviews and stuff like that that he talked about previously. But you can also do it in a more like organized way, and to really be able to make conclusions. So the user interviews is more like the qualitative part of it, but you can also do it more in a quantitative way. So it depends in which market you are, if you're B2B or B2C. But the idea is that if you're in B2B, you can basically sell a product that doesn't really exist. You say, we do this and this is our value proposition. And then let's see, are they interested? Do they want to take a meeting? Are they ready to pay to get access to your product before all the others in 2 months or something? So it depends if you're selling to like bigger companies or smaller companies, but especially if you're selling to smaller companies, this is a great way of proving that you're doing the right thing. And when you're proving that you're doing the right thing, you can avoid waste and reduce the risk, because that's where we want to get at when we're working on our product. And an example of this, actually I was thinking of take myself as an example, because now I'm trying to build this company like Action Metrics, helping startups with data. I got this idea like, oh, maybe I should do a course, like a training workshop for startups, and that I can sell it to accelerators, or I can sell it to the accelerator and then they convince their startups to join. And I just put together an email, and I knew someone working in an accelerator, and it was seriously 4 bullet points. And I was like, I want to do this for a group of like 5 to 10 startups. And I sent that and I pushed it, and she forwarded it to a colleague, and then finally we had a call, and then he said, yeah, sure, that sounds good, can you come here and do it in 2 weeks? I'm like, yes, sure, 4-hour course I'll put together in 2 weeks. And it worked out, and it was really successful, and I didn't waste time on building up this whole course with like 100 slides and templates and stuff without knowing that I knew I had customers, and I knew they were ready to pay for this. But if you're B2C, then you can more go for like viral or other things that you can build a simple product that proves or like that still helps you identify is this something that people want to use. And a great example of this is Dropbox. Have you heard of their MVP? Do you want to tell us?
Yeah, it was just a landing page where you could sign up, right?
Yeah.
And that was it.
Even before that,
Oh, even.
or maybe after. Yeah, he did a video
Oh.
of and like showing just the interface and like, yeah, look, now I transfer a file from my computer, and then look, I go into my Windows computer and it's here, and then I go into my Mac computer and it's here because it's all connected. But it was all like video. I mean, it wasn't. There was no real product. It looks very real. I found the actual video. You can find it online. Then from that video, they sent people to the landing page, I think, and then they got so many signups from, because I think they had the landing page. They didn't have a lot of traction because it was just a landing page. They did the video. They went viral, and they got so many signups in a very little time. And also in the video, there are a lot of jokes for like tech people and like early adopter that only those people understand. So yeah, you should watch it. It's a lot of fun. Cool. Yes. So then the idea is to run these tests. So maybe you do like 3 kinds of videos, and you test which one has the best effect, maybe. Or you do one and then you see the effect and you realize, no, but people like this more. This is the feedback that we got from it. And then you do a second one where you take that into account. And step by step, you get closer to a product that meets the needs of the market and what people are really ready to pay for, and not like, oh, cool. You want to get them pretty close to this I take out my credit card activity or like event, even if it can be hard if you don't have a product. There's a great book about this. Have you heard about the Lean Startup? Yay, good. Have you read it?
We heard it.
Good. You heard it? Okay. But now you'll be motivated to read it, maybe.
Yeah. I've heard audio.
Ah, okay. You mean that way. Okay. I see. Yes. But this is like the Bible for finding product market fit. So I recommend you to read it. The rest of the presentation will be more oriented toward after you found product market fit and after you launched, or maybe around product market fit, but at least you launched and you had some data. Do you have any questions about like MVP testing and so on? Yeah.
Can I ask, if you say like metrics after you've launched, isn't there any metrics that you can use before you launch that measure how well you're doing?
Sure. So if you have like a video, or if you're, let's say that you're selling a product that you haven't put together yet, you can, so let's say that you're sending a lot of cold emails. So you track that, you see how many did I send, and how many converted into making a call with me, and then how many converted into being beta users.
Sure.
And then if you run like 3 in parallel, you can look at the different conversion rates on all the different, 3 different, and then the one with the highest conversion rate should be the idea that you should go for.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I find it hard because obviously the metrics that, because we're a B2C company, we're selling online,
Yeah.
and our metrics will be like customer acquisition cost,
Mm.
lifetime value, and all those.
Yeah. Of course.
There's no way of knowing those right now.
No.
So our metrics, and I thought like the homework was kind of hard because our metrics could be like how many customers do you talk to a week,
Yeah.
or because we want to learn, right? And our goal now is to learn about what our product should be, and that's our goal, and then we should measure how well are we achieving that goal.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of hard to like.
No, I understand. Yeah, if you haven't launched and if you're like pretty far away from launching, it's tricky. But I advise you to launch as soon as possible.
Yeah, we will. I mean,
Yeah.
we've done all those tests we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Great.
Yeah, with great results. So.
Awesome. Any other questions? Yes.
I forgot what the KPI stands for. What's that acronym?
It's key performance indicators.
Thank you.
It will be on the next slide. We'll not the acronym, but we'll talk more about the the whole ecosystem of data in a startup. But any more questions on MVP, pre-launch, using data? Okay, cool. So, understanding data in a startup. I call it the data pyramid. But basically, it's just to show you that you want it to be a pyramid that is really big in the bottom, and then it's getting thinner and thinner towards the top. The presentation will go from top to down. Yeah. So KPIs are really like the most important indicators that define your growth. So like usually it's it can be regarding usage or revenue, but it's really like, what are we going towards? Where do we want to go? And then, but you also need another layer, because you need to know what levers do we have to pull to be able to push this in the direction that we want it. So that's why this is super important as well. And then finally, raw data, because it needs to come from somewhere. You can't, there's no magic. It all needs to be feeded from somewhere. So it can be wherever you are interacting with your customers or clients, or anywhere you're like tracking anything. So it can be Facebook or your CRM or your own database or whatever. And what I see from some startups, it depends a bit on the team in the startup of how this pyramid, what this pyramid look like. So if you have a pretty tech heavy startup, or that have a very good tech team, or a CEO that is really tech oriented, here is really good. Here is big and thick and nice. You have it all there, but it can be a bit like cut here, and you miss these really actionable insights and really creating those numbers that can change your behavior, that we will look into soon. And then on the other hand, when you have a startup that is less tech intensive because the product doesn't need it, or maybe the tech team is too small, difficult to find tech talent, etc. It can be that you have gaps here instead, and that you're not tracking everything, or it's not very well set up. So then when you're like, oh, I want to measure our retention, like how long do our customers stay? And then like, but we haven't tracked when they arrive and when they leave. So we'll start to do that now, and we'll have our retention in a year. And you want to avoid that. So you want this whole triangle or pyramid to work. And already when you build your product, you want to make sure that this is well set up. And then like 2 months in, 6 months in, 1 year in, you can start to fill this one up as well. Cool. So we'll start from the top. Define KPIs. So I asked you to, yes?
So just one question. You said like, okay, 6 months in you start building on the metrics and keep KPIs when you have the raw data.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't you start by planning what are my key metrics, my KPIs?
Yes, of course.
What raw data would I need before you build?
Yeah, sure. I meant more like, yes, you sketch up like what do I want to know in the end. But then building up like that you build dashboards or like use tools to analyze those numbers. Okay, so the analytical part, the measure part, yes. But that's why we're all here, that you know what you want to fill that pyramid up with in the future. So you now today can probably plan the bottom part. Cool. So I asked you to think about objectives in terms of revenue. So it's not like, it's not a forecast. I'm not asking you, I didn't ask you for a forecast. It was really like, but if I can dream, or like a good objective for us is to have 10K in monthly recurring revenue, for example. And it's just to have, for you to be clear on where you want to go. So that's all. And then, so was that clear? Did you manage to set a financial goal? I know you've been doing it a little bit already with Angel Challenge, a bit of forecasting and stuff. Someone wants to share their financial goal? You look like you...
we want to generate 1 million kroners in a year.
Yeah.
So per year, that means.
Okay, cool. Yeah, perfect. Anyone else? Yeah?
Well, our goal is 5,000 units next year.
10,000 units?
5,000 units.
5,000 units, yeah.
And $1.25 million in revenue.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Anyone else? Yeah?
We started producing in 2020, and our goal is to sell 1,000 units by 2020 to a total value of $1.2 million.
Okay. Cool, great goals. 2020. That's in a long time.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. And then I also asked you about customer value. I call it customer value. The guy before me, he talked more about mission, but I guess it's kind of the same thing. Did you come up with a good statement of how you want to help your users? How are you changing your users' lives? Yeah?
We actually have a two-way product because we provide people. So one of them is that the money that you as a tourist pay stays in the local society.
Okay.
Not go to the big tourist brand.
Ah, yeah.
And another side of it is that you as a person, when you go abroad, you could see and discover the place from the local eyes. You don't need to see Eiffel Tower.
No.
You can actually go maybe behind the Eiffel Tower, under the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Do it another way.
Okay, yeah. So if you would just say that in one sentence, like...
Discover tourism, would we have it? Be tourists with the local eyes or something?
Yeah, like localized tourism.
And stays in the society.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, makes sense. Did you had something to...
I thought it was interesting the way the question was phrased. I didn't think data. So I thought of it's helping cosplayers create better costumes and with an increased degree of self-realization.
Okay.
But how do we measure that? I mean, we could try to track customer stories and see what kind of impact it has.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
You're ahead of me. We're coming to that, but
I love data. I'm a statistics guy. So.
Perfect. Great then. Exactly. So that's the thing. Then you want to translate your goal into something measurable, because goals are nothing unless you can measure them and really define if you're getting closer to them or not. But sure, these why I talk about both, because I guess you're pretty familiar with financial goals and revenue, and it's important for investors and stuff. But it's equally important to have another perspective, not only this short-term perspective that you get from the financial perspective, but also be able to see that you build a more sustainable use of your product, that people actually love it, that people actually use it, or they actually need it. And that is not always very easy to do with simply financial KPIs and metrics. So that's why I think you should look into quality as well. Anyway, so we'll translate this into key performance indicators so you can show if you've gotten closer to your objectives or not. So the financial one is super easy. It depends on your business model, obviously, but for example, if you have subscription, you usually talk about monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue. And if you have a marketplace, you often talk about gross merchandise value. Or you can just simply use revenue, or it can be number of users if you're pre-revenue. And then it's also good to keep an eye on LTV CAC ratio. Has someone heard about LTV or in CAC? Yeah?
Lifetime value, cost acquisition of customer, how much it costs to acquire a customer.
Exactly, customer acquisition cost. And that you want to keep, yeah, there are a lot of acronyms here. But that you want to keep an eye on that, because that is your profitability metric. So of course you're not going to be profitable from day one, but you want to make sure that you don't spend loads on cash and marketing and not only to bring in a little bit. So this kind of shows how efficient you are in your message, like communication and the features you have, and it also includes like retention, how long do people stay. This metric includes a lot of things, and is very relevant when you meet investors as well. And then customer value, it's more tricky, as you talked about, but usually it gets translated to, for example, if people leave reviews. That's great to have that under control and to look at that regularly. Or retention, because if they keep on coming back, if they are repeat, so like if they come and buy one tail and then they come and buy another one the next year, then you know that they loved their last tail and they want another one because it was so awesome, and that you want to measure. Yes, those two. But I have... Okay, yes. So this is also a good way of thinking when you want to define your customer value KPI. Have you heard of our pirate metrics by David McClure? Yeah? Do you want to explain?
It's this.
It's this.
What's there to explain?
Yeah. Okay. But it's kind of the funnel of your users. So you have like this. Big people coming in, awareness, you're talking to a lot of people, or you're having Facebook ads or whatever, and then you acquire some of them, you activate some of them, and you manage to retain some of them, and then you manage to earn money from them, and finally, hopefully this doesn't exist, the churn doesn't exist, but usually it does. And it's a really good exercise to sketch this up and look like what is our customer user journey. And here you can look at, okay, but in which step here, or what can we combine with what step that prove that we've reached our objective? So for example, on retention, like, yeah, they come back and buy a second tail. We've proven that we created a good costume for them, for example. So that's an example. But it can also be, for example, when I talk to marketplaces, it's usually that, yeah, but that you go to the marketplace, that you actually get something from it. That you don't only become a member, but that you also get activated, and so for example, Airbnb, you're a host and you actually want to make sure that you get your apartment rented out. So look at those kinds of things can also work. Wait, I have this, yes, this slide. So for different kinds of business models, this is how you can usually translate these objectives. So as we talked about subscription, monthly recurring revenue, frequency of use of the product. So they don't only sign up and get a 1-year contract, but that they also use it through the whole contract. Marketplace, as I spoke about, repeat reviews are great. And the revenue of suppliers, because usually the suppliers of a marketplace, they come because they want to earn money. So you want to track that as well. Because if they earn money on your platform, they'll stay there. And then the app, it's about daily, weekly, or monthly active users. It depends completely on your product. If you have a messaging app, you expect your users to be there daily, maybe. If you have a budgeting app, maybe they come weekly. And of course, retention, to make sure that they don't only log in once, that they come back. And e-commerce, so just plain revenue as a financial objective or financial KPI, and the repeat, that they come back regularly. Here again, it depends on what your product is. Do you expect them to come back once a month, once a year, or 2 times a year? Or depends on your customer group. So now we covered the top part. And now we're going to look into how can we use this, because this is what we want to optimize on, and break it down to things that we can have an effect on, or like things that we can actually manage and improve on. So we're going to find those levers. And we're going to look into 2 examples, but it might not fit exactly your business models, but probably you'll be inspired on how you can apply it to your company. So this is a metrics tree of your financial KPI. And it basically shows you on the top, this is your goal, this is what you want to optimize on. And then the breakdown of it. So how do you calculate your monthly recurring revenue? Well, you take the number of customers times your average revenue per user, and that gives you your MRR. So then you'll know, okay, so we increased 8% here on MRR. Why? Where did it come from? And then we see, okay, but we increased the number of customers with 13%, but we decreased our average revenue per user with 4%. Okay, so now, something bad happened here, or we changed the pricing policy or something, and something good happened here to the left with the customers. But okay, but why did it increase with 13%? And you go down 1 step below, and you split it up on a number of new users. So that didn't change this month. We had the 0% increase from last month. Retention increased. We had 15% more retained users. And also churn. So as you can see, these ones are always connected, because retention is 96% and churn is 4%. So it always is 100%. And that decreased with 50%. So then you can see, okay, but our increase in customers, it came completely from that we decreased our churn and increased our retention. So maybe we added a feature, or we did something different, or we changed our customer success strategy, or you might start to think about what it might be.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
If you've done like 3 new things and you get those results, how do you know what you did and what led to the increase?
True. Yeah. So that's why that's why it's good to look into the data and look into more detail, maybe down to like user level, and look into the raw data. But this is your first this is what we need to look into. Second is to run tests. And instead of just launching 3 features at once,
you should do it.
Instead testing them separately, and then launching when you know what effect it should have on the numbers. But that's a whole other subject. That's a big separate subject. No, it's very good. Also, based on churn, we can calculate our lifetime value. And find out how long they're going to stay, because it's a 4% chance each month that they will leave. So it's just statistically how you can calculate it. Okay, but if we look into these new users, so it says 0% here, 0% change. And then how do we break down that? Okay, so we have trials. They have a trial offer for this product. And then they have a conversion rate on the number of trials. That becomes the number of new users. And here we can see, oh wow, so many more trials, 33%. But then we decreased our conversion rate with 25%. And then you also start to like, who are these people? Is completely wrong people who started doing this trial, or did we change our onboarding maybe? I don't know. And we keep on looking down here. So I hope you can see in the back, but it says site visits and again conversion rates. And here we see that site visits increased with the 50%, but this conversion rate also decreased. And that's why we had a 33% increase in trials and not 50% increase in trial. And then site visits depends on how much we spend in marketing. But that completely depends on your product. If you're very sales driven, it won't work like that. But then we can see like, okay, but they spent 40% more on marketing, but they get 50% more site visits. Wow, okay, so they did something good, you think, but then you realize that, okay, but all the conversion rates are down, and finally we had no difference from last month. So we spent 40% more, but it was for nothing. And then you're like, okay, but what did we change in our campaign during this month? And then you can learn from it. So the idea is to try and identify which actions did we take and what effect did they have. And then I also want to cover the LTV CAC. So the LTV here is calculated based on the churn and the lifetime. So how many months do we expect them to stay? And how much do we earn on them each month? And then you get this lifetime value of 135. And then the CAC is based on the marketing spend divided by the number of new customers. And then when we divide them, we get the ratio. Preferably, you spend less on marketing than what you earn of your users. So it should be above 1. Otherwise, it's pretty bad. Then if you're below 1, like stop spending on marketing, go back, work on your product, come back and accelerate when you have some kind of profitability on each new customer coming in. And the really good standard for startups, even early on, like 1 or 2 years in, is to be between 3 and 4. In the industry or like among investors and stuff, it's considered a good level. But I've seen startups succeeding and raising a lot of money on 1.5 or 2. But I've also seen those startups, of course, succeeding, but having LTV CAC on like 30 or something. But it also depends on how long time you have to, so you can have like very long lifetime of your customers. So then even if you have 30, but it will be spent over 9 years or 10 years or something. So, but it's an indicator on how profitable you can be. And it's also interesting because if you have a ratio of 3, it means that when you spend money on getting 1 new customer, it gets you cash to invest in getting 2 other customers. So when you are at 3 and 4, you can really get that exponential growth that you want. I hope you want it at least. Because if it's 2, okay, so you spend on getting 1 new customer, and that gets you 1 second customer, but then the graph is less exponential. Like the growth is less exponential. So that's why it's good to try and be as high as possible. So for marketplace, here is for marketplace. Yes, as you can see, it's so much bigger and it's so much to look into and it's so much to optimize on. But I'll just run through it quickly. But it's exactly the same principle that we start here with revenue. Revenue depends on gross merchandise value, so like the complete turnover of of the site or the marketplace times the take rate, the commission they take. And the GMV depends on orders delivered or whatever transactions you do, times the average order value. So this is also true for e-commerce. And this is like, this one works as well for e-commerce. It's just that you take out one part of the marketplace and then it works. Yeah, let's look into this part here. This is pretty interesting. So we have active buyers. So how many of the buyers that we know, how frequent did they come and buy? So that depends again on what you're doing. If you're doing a cosplay tale, they maybe come once a year. But if you're Deliveroo or Uber or something, you might have an interesting frequency to work on. And then we have one step down, we have registered buyers and their activation rates. So this is something you can really play with, or not play with, but try to optimize and try and increase in getting them activated more often. And then I have defined something I call warm and cold buyers. So that is to try and define if they've forgotten about you, or are they still active or like warm customers. So let's say you're Uber and you see your users coming back once a month and then they stop and you don't see them for 2-3 months, and that probably means that they forgot about you, they didn't like the product, so they stopped using it. And they uninstalled the app. They started using a competitor, something. You wanna identify the users that are gone, basically, and then you can get this cold buyer rate, as I call it, and it's kind of a churn rate, but that you can apply on e-commerce and on marketplaces. Also then below warm buyers is just new site visits, conversion rate, marketing spend, as we saw on the other one. And the CAC LTV is also similar to the subscription. Cool, yes?
I have way too many questions, but how can you, like in our case, we want to sell tails which are pretty expensive for the first one.
Yeah.
But then it's a kit so that you can change out the parts.
Yeah.
So you can buy more parts later if you want.
Yeah.
That the price points are very different.
So
how do you like see the difference on price points in an analysis like that? Because one tail could cost $150 and one part could cost $5. Yeah. Where would you put that in?
So it's here in the average order value.
Yeah, but then there's a huge difference on the price.
Yeah, yeah. So then below or average order value, you can split up and do the share of tails and share of accessories.
Sure.
For example.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could even do something here and say people who just bought a tail or those who also converted to buying accessories.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. So this is like a start point, and you have to make it your own. Yes, okay. Exactly.
Good, because that's exactly what you're gonna do. Such a good transition. Yeah, are you my assistant and handing out the papers? Great, thank you. So you'll get to sketch your own metrics tree. So if you haven't launched and you're not sure of your business model, maybe try and think of your industry and like what business model do you have in mind at the moment, and try to break that down into something that makes sense for you. Are you ready? Let's get started on the last part. We'll finish at 5, so we're running over a little bit. I hope it's okay. So as you can see, we've now finished the top part, and we did the second part, And now we're going to go further down into the raw data. So to collect raw data, you want to make sure, as we talked about before, that you don't have any gaps in your tracking. To make sure that you don't have any gaps, again, look into your user journey and step by step say like, okay, awareness, yeah, but we're running Facebook ads, so we're tracking impressions and clicks, etc. Acquisition, yeah, so then we're using Google Analytics, for example, and all the way down. So it completely, of course, depends on what your model is in the industry you are, or in B2B, B2C. I have an example of a SaaS company and how I would advise you to put it together, or SaaS, or even just a B2B company, but you can also have in hardware, and maybe you're able to track some usage of the device. Then this works as well. So as I said, awareness, so maybe you're using AdWords, Facebook, maybe in your CRM you're putting down the leads or like cold emails you're sending out or whatever it might be. Acquisition, so then it's usually that they come in, they visit a landing page maybe, or they do a first meeting with you. So then it's, for landing pages, Google Analytics. It's really good. And then your CRM, for if you do meetings, and make sure to really use the CRM and like really track things in your CRM. You have a lot of potential in your CRM and making it into a powerful tracking tool. Yeah.
What would you say are the best CRMs for also like integrating to metric platforms?
Yes. So unfortunately, I'm not yet an expert in CRMs, but I've been working with Pipedrive. And it was pretty good. So that's also a tip, like when you're looking at tools and, for example, CRM, look at the API and look at what information you can get out from there and what is stuck. So I know that Pipedrive was fairly good. We managed to do like custom fields and get that out of there, and we analyzed it in a dashboard. Also, I looked into HubSpot CRM. That was not a great API. They had like no information on the deals. So at the moment, I'm a bit hesitant towards HubSpot. But that's all I have to say about CRMs. But check that before you sign up, I'd say. And then when finally they come in and they use the product, I would say that you want to track things in your database. And some people try to track the activity on the platform with Google Analytics. Google Analytics is okay, it's good when they are not logged in. But as soon as people are logged in, you want to track, because the thing with Google Analytics is that you only get the big average. You can't really look into people level, and it's very hard to find correlations and look into, okay, but these are my best users who are the most active, and where did they come from, or which features are they using? An analysis like that you cannot do in Google Analytics. So that's why GA is fine for landing pages, where you have a lot of traffic. But as soon as they are logged in and you want to track more details and stuff, get the database set up tracking in your database. You can also use something like Mixpanel. Have you heard of Mixpanel? No? Okay. It's a behavioral analytics tracking tool. So it's tracking all the events that your users are taking on your platform. So usually you're only tracking logged in users with Mixpanel. It's what it's mostly used for.
How does it compare to Intercom?
So Intercom is more for messaging. I think they have some overlapping analytics that you can do, that some of it is similar. But Mixpanel is really to analyze your users. What is your funnel? What are your conversion rates? How many go from step 1 to step 2? And it's possible that you can get some of this from Intercom. But Intercom API is really, really bad. So it's stuck in Intercom, unfortunately. I've been telling them that they should build this out, but it will probably take a while. Yes?
Yeah, another like Mixpanel versus Amplitude?
Yes, so those are very similar.
Yeah, okay.
They're very, yeah, it's kind of the same. You have different like pricing models and stuff. So Mixpanel is free up until you have 1,000 users. So if you have a B2B product with then it will probably take you a while to get up to 1,000 users. So then it could be interesting to look at Mixpanel. But if you have a B2C tool, it very quickly gets very expensive, and you need to pay like $1,000, between $1,000 and $2,000 per year for Mixpanel. So it gets very expensive when you scale up. The other thing with Mixpanel or Amplitude or anything else is that if you want to change the tool, or you realize that no, this is too expensive for us, or we don't like this tool anymore, it can be kind of tricky to get the data out of there and to export it. So you actually don't own the data. It's on their servers, and you might lose it all, So that's why it's also, even if you decide to work with Mixpanel, which is great, it's an awesome tool that can save you some time and help you in your analytics, but make sure to also track some of the basic events, at least in your database as well, like the most central activities in your funnel, in case you decide to leave Mixpanel or Amplitude. And then finally, like revenue, you can of course track with your database, or you can track it with the Stripe, or if you're using any one of these subscription tools. And if you have a subscription service, you can connect your Stripe account or your subscription service to something called SharkMugu. And it's also for free when you have less than 10k euros in monthly recurring revenue. And it automatically, you just plug it in and you just click go, like log in, and then it gets you the lifetime value, it gets you the churn, it gets you plenty of these high-level financial KPIs. But it works great it works best if you have a subscription model. It's kind of made for that. Cool. Any questions on this? Or is it clear? Good. Yes, one last thing actually. What you want to be able to do is to follow each user from as early as possible. Marketing, like attribution is always tricky. Like how to attribute your user, if they came from Facebook or did they come from Google. Maybe they came from both, and defining that is always tricky, but try to get the tracking as early as possible. So for example, if you have a SaaS and you're using a CRM and you're using a database to track the activity on your platform, make sure to have a common denominator, like an ID number or something that is the same in your CRM and in your database. Because in your CRM, you'll put down, yeah, we did 3 meetings and we met in a trade show, or I cold called this person, and then down the road you'll be able to see how active were this person on the platform, and then you'll be able to start to see correlations between activity and where they came from or how you sold them this product. Make sense? Yeah, cool. Okay, so now we've done all the 3. Well done, and you haven't fallen asleep yet. So what should we do with all this then? So we have all these, we know what we want to measure and we know what we want to look into, and we have all the raw data. What do we do with this? So we want to put it in dashboards, because dashboards are so great. You don't want to spend time on manually updating Excel sheets. Because working with data and KPIs, it's kind of getting started at going to the gym. It's really hard to like convince yourself to go there a first time, and you're like, oh, but I feel like working on other things. It's not your favorite part of your job. But get there and do it once, and make sure that you get it set up so it's easy to access and gets updated automatically. And also that it's, so for the gym, for example, if it's on the other side of the city, you'll never go. If it's such hard work to get there, you'll never go. But if it's easy, you just open, you have your dashboard set up, you look at them more often. And you'll also start to see some behavioral differences. And you start to question yourself, like, oh, but here CAC increased and LTV decreased, and why did this happen? And also if you have employees and you have a team, and they will start to get ideas on what can I do within my field, if I'm in marketing or customer success or sales or whatever it might be. And you don't have to tell them what they should do to make the company move forward. They'll see it themselves in the numbers, and they'll take their orders from there, kind of. So it makes the job easier for you as founders. Yes, so this is a overview dashboard. So I usually work with two kinds of dashboards. One overview dashboard where you see more like historical performance. So this is per month. So here we set up their financial goal of GMV. Sorry, this is a marketplace. That was a target of 300K, and then where were they at the moment and how far do they need to go, and then per month their performance and their growth. And then here also LTV and their CAC, what they spent on marketing. And this is updated completely in an automated way. So we made a tunnel from their database, and we connected with API from Facebook and Google AdWords. So on the first of each month, they can go in and look at their numbers. Their value KPIs or customer value KPIs, we looked at repeat. So this is also something we get directly from the database. Artists with sales, as I said, you want to provide revenue to your suppliers. So this is what they check here. And also the average review of a transaction, what reviews people get or give. And this is also something that they share with their investors that are on their board. So they know for the next board meeting, they know what they'll talk about, and all the investors have already seen this. And it's also, I met one investor this week, and or last week, and he's like, oh wow, automated dashboards, and I can get reporting directly. This is so great, because that would make me a more engaged investor. Because we would have more communication, and I would get ideas like, oh shit, I think they need help on the CAC here. I'm going to connect them to this person I know, or whatever it might be that you might need help with. Yeah. And then the next type of dashboard that I like is more operational oriented. So this is for your like day-to-day activities. How are you doing? So instead of like measuring month by month, so you need to wait until the end of the month until you can actually see your performance. Here it's like a rolling. So so on this one we used the 30 last days compared to the 30 previous days. So every day it's updated, every hour it's updated, and you can see how you're doing. You can also do 7 last days compared to 7 previous days. And then you know, okay, but what activities did we do this week? And compare it to the week before. Here we also look, so this is for, you do multiple. So probably each person in the team or each team in your startup has their own dashboard that they own and that show their performance. So this was their traffic dashboard. So for example, here we can see the orange line is showing their marketing spend. And then the bars show the value of the transactions. Then you can see, okay, but we increased a lot here in marketing spend, but why don't we have a big jump here in sales? So what happened? And then you go in. So this is your baseline of your performance. But this is to inspire you to look into the nitty-gritty and find the details of why did this happen. Okay, so I see here that I spent a lot more during this period, but no sales. Okay, so I look into Facebook analytics. Okay, but this day we have this campaign that started. Okay, so I know that this one didn't seem to work, for example. And here are some specific traffic data for them. But also this is really interesting to work with indicators and showing, here's with colors showing on their growth. So if it's in red, it means that their growth was below 15% or below 10% or something like that. If it's on yellow, it's between 10 and 15, and if it's above 15, it's in the green. So that makes it that you just open your dashboard and you're like, aha, we're doing well, or no, we're not doing well. And it should be quick and easy to understand what your performance has been. And makes it also easy for people new in your team or not super comfortable with numbers, and makes it easier to digest. Cool. So, yes. Yeah. So this will be your homework, and for some of you it's more relevant than for others. But if you have any type of like data, if you have a Facebook page or if you have like a landing page, you can put together your first dashboard and just try it out and play around with it. So the previous dashboard I showed you was Clipfolio, the one here in the middle. And I'll explain to you the differences. So Databox is free. But you can only connect you cannot connect your own database with the free version. But for trying it out and playing around, and if you only have a landing page in Google Analytics at the moment, this is will get you going, will get you started. And also Databox, the advantage is that it's pretty user-friendly. It's a bit like drag and drop. You don't need to, Clipfolio reminds you more of Excel and that you need to write formulas, while Databox is just click, 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 drag, and and then you can get it together. But then as always with tools, with software tools, either you get those who are super flexible, which is nice, but it requires more technical skills or more time for implementation. Or you have the more standardized tools that are super user-friendly, but on the other hand, they're less flexible. So it's like you always have plenty of different kinds of tools on that range. So you want to find the ones that fit your needs. But I only ask you to try this and open it and try it out. So if you're not taking any data from a database, I recommend Databox. If you want to look at data from a database, do the 2-week free trial with Clipfolio. and just to see what it looks like. Yeah, of course.
I just, like, 2 days ago, signed up to this DataDriven. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's supposedly like that, company like this, but
Yeah.
you haven't heard of it, right?
No, DataDriven?
Yeah.
Okay, no. Yeah, there are so many tools out there. And some are free, but they're usually quite limited when they're free in terms of how you can set it up. So most of them get you like template dashboards, but then a lot of them don't let you customize it as you want it.
But this did to some degree, but it was like a 2-week trial.
Yeah, but you're free to try that if you want. You can try whatever tool. I mean, there's plenty of tools out there, but of what I've seen, these two are really good. Clipfolio is a pretty common tool, especially among digital marketers. And then just to tell you, like, when you've grown out of these tools, SharkMugu is really cool as well. So if you feel like these are too easy for you and you really want to look into deeply into your data, you can look into SharkMugu. It looks pretty cool, but they're not transparent. They're not transparent about their pricing anymore, and so you'll have to call them. But their products seem really cool. Yeah. So your homework for next week, I guess. I don't know how it works with these. I was asked to plan a homework for you. I don't know what's going to happen afterwards, but to put together just a dashboard and play around with it and try to customize it, and try to use these metrics that you looked at today, and try to insert it into a dashboard. Cool.
Well,
I think that was all I had.